guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video of my favorite 5-star reads from the summer. I have done this, I think, almost a year now, where I've chatted about my 5-star reads for the previous season. It is September, and I am talking about all the 5-star reads I read in June, July, and August. I will say my reading really slowed down because in June I started a new job. I quit my other job and I was a teacher, and I normally have the entire summer to read. I don't have that anymore. I do love my new job so incredibly much that I didn't feel like I was missing out on a summer, but it's definitely impacted my reading, especially because I was traveling a lot this summer. I went to a lot of different places, and so especially in August, I think I only read 15 or 16 books total, and I have one 5-star read in August. But I had a lot of 4 and 4.5 star reads, and it killed me to not include my 4.5 star reads, but these videos are like my tried and true absolute 5-star reads. So I did go back to my Goodreads to double check a couple of them to make sure they weren't 4.5 star reads, but I have 5 from June, 3 from July, and 1 from August. June, I went on vacation with my family to the beach where I read a ton, and I didn't read as much the rest of the months, but that's okay. I'm trying to be okay with not reading as much because of the way my life is going. I'm trying to read more in September, high hopes for the month, but I have some really good 5-star reads. I will go ahead and link down below my previous 5-star reads videos to see what else I've loved so far, but I feel like you've also heard me talk about all of these and like incessantly talk about them. But the first one that was a 5-star read, Keep Her Safe by QB Tyler. This was actually part of the vlog where I could not stop reading until I got a 5-star read, and of course that's Keep Her Safe by QB Tyler. This is a bodyguard romance, age gap. I'm forever obsessed with everything that QB Tyler writes, and this one they met when she was, I don't remember how old she was, like 16, 17, or maybe 18. She really liked him, like made a move on him, and he's like, no, and then he was gonna quit, but then her parents died, and so then he stayed, and now she had been in a long-term relationship, and she got out of that relationship, and it's time for them to be together. So good, so spicy, amazing. I love this one. Another one, so I read that on vacation, then this one I read literally the entire drive home from Myrtle Beach. It was quite a long drive, and I drove for probably a third of the drive. I drove, my dad started, then I drove a good like 3-4 hour stretch, and then my dad drove again, and so I read Something Wild and Wonderful, and I actually got to meet the author at Steamy Lit and got this gorgeous art print that I'm obsessed with that I forgot I had, but I'm keeping it in here because this was amazing. It's MM. It is, they're hiking the Pacific Coast Trail. The one hero is hiking it because he came out as gay to his extremely religious family, and they basically just disowned him, and he was really, really close with his parents. So that's been really hard on him, and so he is going through a lot. He's hiking the trail alone, runs into the other hero who is dealing with a lot himself, and he though has a really supportive family, and so they start hiking the trail together, and it is just very character driven and very emotional, and I was obsessed with these characters. I cried at the end, and I rarely cry when I read books, but this was amazing. The setting was amazing. I loved them falling so hard for each other and trying to realize, like, do they want something to happen after they leave the trail, because it's very much like we're falling in love in a very enclosed space, and what's it going to be like when we're out in the real world. I love that setup. This was amazing. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed, and I cannot wait for the author's next book. Then is Make You Mine by Laura Pavlov. It is like at the bottom. It's right here, and I did not want to get it from that big stack, but I love Laura Pavlov so much. This one is the single dad romance, a nanny romance. She is nannying his kids, and he is a firefighter, and I just love the whole dynamic. It's an age gap, and there was so much tension between them at different scenes where they like might have caught each other in some various situations, and they end up falling in love with each other. And there is a little drama with like their mom, the girl's mom, which I don't always love other women drama, but I just adored this book. It was my favorite book in the series, of the Honey Mountain series. I read the entire series pretty much this summer, aside from book 1. I started book 1 I think last year, and then I read 2, 3, 4, and 5 all in one go because I had them on audio, and they were amazing. I love the series. Very small town. If you want my favorite in the series, that is this one, which is book 3. Then I was very pleasantly surprised how much I loved One Touch by Lena Hendricks. This one is a hate to love romance where he is her ex's brother, and she really didn't love the person she was with her ex, and so she's very outspoken and loud with his brother, and she is renovating her, it's either her, I think it's her aunt's house. She is kind of like not sure what she wants to do with her life, so she moves in with her aunt and they need to renovate it. She wants to do it herself and they're like, no, like this is kind of like a historic building, you need like professionals to come do it. She reluctantly agrees to his help. She is very overbearing and like pushes back against him and like wants to help out with the house and everything. So they do clash, but they have a lot of time together that they have to spend, and at one point there's a road trip for a certain thing and they end up falling in love, and I really love this one. Very small town. I love this series so much. This is my favorite in the series so far. Highly recommend checking out Lena Hendricks in the series for this one. I love the home renovation aspect, and she starts a social media page for it, which is really fun, and finding a passion of her own. It was so good. Okay, so this one I don't remember if it was 4.5 stars or not, but in my review on Goodreads, I put 5 stars. So Black Hills by Nora Roberts. I am on a Nora Roberts journey. I've been buying a lot of her books. I'm very much in a romantic suspense mood right now, and so this one is one everyone told me I would love because it has so many animals in it. She actually opens her own animal sanctuary, and it's a second chance romance, which is one of my favorites. So I feel like I have a couple second chance romances on here. So in this one, she grew up on her parents' ranch, and he grew up with his grandparents on their ranch because his parents like were not good parents, and so they would see each other every summer, and slowly they like fell in love. But then he broke her heart, left, and she opened an animal sanctuary on her family's property, but she is away trying to like track down some animal, and now she's back, and he is back in town because his grandfather broke his leg, and so he doesn't want to be back because he kind of cut that part off, and he cut her off, and now someone is sabotaging her sanctuary, and it's like very dangerous, and he is like, I'm not letting you do things alone. She wants to track an animal, and it's gonna have to be overnight, and he's like, you're not going alone, I'm going with you. So it's very forced proximity because he's just very stubborn and protective. She wants nothing to do with him, and obviously sparks fly again. They fall in love, and they're trying to track down who this person is sabotaging the sanctuary and putting people's lives in danger, and things like get bloody in here. Like, he murders some people in here, and there is an animal death, please be aware of that. So that was really hard to read, but I love the setup of this one. I love the romance. This was just so good. That was everything for June. So for July, obviously we're gonna have Glimmers of You by Catherine Cowles. This one is her newest book, and it's billionaire, brother's best friend, fake dating, and they like kind of were on the cusp of becoming something in the past, and then she had a really bad event that happened to her. She's diabetic. She almost died on the mountain that they were both hiking, and so he had to like carry her down the mountain and rescue her, and he's been like traumatized ever since from the thought of losing her. So he pushes her away. He leaves town. He like builds up this business with his parents in New York. Now he's back working at they have like a lodge now, and he's working at their lodge, and she has this clingy guy that she went on a couple dates with but like wasn't really into, who won't leave her alone. So she, to the first person she sees, she like is acting like they're dating, and it happens to be the hero, and she says that they're dating. She's like, hey babe, come over here, and he's like, what's going on? And now he thinks maybe we should fake date because this will be the great chance to like put my parents off my back because they want me to settle down and get married. So they start fake dating, and someone starts sabotaging her and like lighting things on fire, and she is very paranoid, and he gets very paranoid, and at one point they have to live together. So many amazing tropes in here. I absolutely loved it. Romantic suspense like we get from Catherine. I adore her books. Love this one. Obviously a 5 out of 5 star for me. Then I have What We Broke by Marley Valentine. This is a very emotional marriage in trouble. So we do get a past flashback to when they met, started dating, and falling in love, to now when they are extremely broken, can't communicate, and on the verge of divorce. So it does revolve around loss of a child. So please know that going in, they wanted to have another child. The one here actually has a child with his best friend. They slept together in high school just to like see what it was about, and got her pregnant on accident. So they've never been in love, but they have a really great co-parenting relationship. So he loves his daughter, and when he fell in love with the other hero, they want to have a baby together. So that child does pass away. So the whole story revolves around them dealing with their grief and grappling with that, and dealing with like family grief, and wanting to be good enough for the other person and not wanting to bring the other person down. Very, very extremely emotional, but very quick. The audiobook was absolutely amazing. Highly recommend if you want an emotional romance, but I was just so invested in this family and their relationship with one another, and trying to see if they could heal each other, and they have to go to therapy, and I just loved everything about it. And then one of my favorite books probably this year, I cannot stop talking about this book. Teddy Hamilton's one of the narrators. I listened to it on audio, and I was so into this book. I was obsessed. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, one of my new favorite authors now. I'm gonna read every single thing she writes. I'm obsessed. This is a wedding planner romance where she's a wedding planner. Flashback between past when they were meeting, falling in love, to the present, because this is second chance romance. And they met because he's worked for his dad, who's a florist, and she was just starting to work on like bigger clients as a wedding planner for this woman. And now she's gone out on her own and has her first like huge celebrity client, and they are determined to work with him as their florist. 2 years have gone by and they haven't talked to each other. So we see them starting to fall for each other and seeing them now as adults, and they are both extremely broken from each other and you don't know what went wrong. And this is the case where I did not mind that. Normally I'm very let down when you see like what went wrong later on in the book, like it's teased, it's hinted at, you're like, oh, that really wasn't a big deal. This is a big deal. She has a mom. It very much reminded me of the mom in John Tucker Must Die, where her mom jumped from guy to guy to guy. She's been married like 10 times and she's like, well, like true love doesn't really exist. And so her daughter is always like, well, I'm not gonna get married. Like, no, my mom, like it never works out for her. Why would I get married? So I love that. And they are planning this wedding. So I love a good wedding romance. Very like rom-com-y, but like very angsty. Like this is not a rom-com, but it's like has a setting of a rom-com, if that makes sense. So angsty. He is so brooding and damaged and broken because of her. And he has flower tattoos and I'm obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with this book. I loved everything about it and you have to read it if you haven't yet. And then I had one book in August, which is very sad, but it should not be a surprise because I love this author's previous book, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I've been saying her last name wrong. I listened to the audiobook of this. It is Poston, and this one is so good. Hers have like a magical quality to them. So she inherits her grandmother's apartment. Trigger warnings for death of a loved one and suicide. Definitely know that before you read this. But she inherits the apartment and she goes in and there's this guy living there and she's like, what the heck? And then she sees things that shouldn't be there. And she realizes that the apartment is slipping her back in time 7 years. So her grandmother told her about it. Her grandmother had fallen in love with someone in this time slipped. And so she sees this guy and she starts to hang out with him and they really hit it off and start falling in love. But she's in the future and then she meets him in her time. She has not lived out what he knows from his past. And I love that dynamic so much. He is definitely a very, very different person than he was when they met 7 years ago. He's done a lot of growing and her work is like incorporated to his work. I don't want to say how, but they to be around each other and things happen and you're like, well, what else can happen? But like things happen and oh my gosh, it's so good. I love this one. I loved the directions it went and the dynamics between the characters and like the whole, she hasn't even known what, like the extent of their relationship yet and he's lived it all. It's so good. I love this one. And those are my 5-star reads from the last 3 months. I know it wasn't a lot, but these ones like are some of my favorites of the year now and I love them so, so much. So definitely let me know if you've read these and what your thoughts are or what your 5-star reads from the past 3 months are. I would absolutely love to hear because I need more 5-star reads. And now there are books I've been putting off because I know they're going to be like absolute 5-star reads. So I just have to read them now. But let me know what your 5-star reads are. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.